All right, so our second quarter projects are due in the middle of next week. So I wanted to take a minute to just kind of walk you through the rubric, which should look familiar. It's how you're going to be graded. So if you have no idea what I mean by rubric, then you need to go back to the original project assignment in Google Classroom and look. It's going to be a chart that looks kind of like this. And this shows these are how you get the highest scores possible. This is how you get the lowest scores possible. So you want to make sure that as you're putting together your final presentation, you're really following these guidelines, making sure that you're hitting all the stuff in this proficient box. Okay, some ways that you can do that, I'm going to talk you through. So the rubric is split into 4 sections. The first one is preparedness and meeting deadlines, which is pretty straightforward. You get those points by turning stuff in and turning it in on time, or by communicating with me, advocating for yourself, emailing me and saying, Mrs. Brotherton, this is why this is not done. Several of you have done that, and several of you have chosen to just not turn your work in. Okay, so this is a really good real life skill to be able to communicate with someone above you who's expecting you to do something and let them know where you are with your progress, and not just when they ask. Okay, so really, really, really want you working on that and practicing that kind of thing. Okay. The next section is information. So this is the bulk of what you found, and then you're presenting it in this presentation. So the information, the highest score you can get, 5 points. The easiest part is that you display your question. You put your question somewhere. So if you're typing it in a Google Doc, your question is the title. I have no hesitation, no guesses about what in the world it is you started researching, because it is there in black and white. Okay, that should be such an easy point to get. If you have other questions, those should also be displayed. And just a tip for this, think about some of the text features that we talked about with using bold letters. Okay, you want to make it clear to me what your question is, put it in bold, make it stand out from everything else. Maybe underline your questions. Okay, be very, very intentional about that. And then the second part of this is going to require a little more work. And what it says is that information provided effectively answers the question or explains the topic. So a lot of us got in a situation where what we were researching, it didn't fully answer the question, but we were able to find things about our topic. That's okay. Okay. So what I want to see, what you're trying to prove to me is, hey, Mrs. Brotherton, I was curious about this and I did my research. I found all these sources and this is what I've learned. I have learned something. Okay. That is the whole point of this project. So the information part should show me that you have learned something. Okay. If you give me 1 quote or 2 quotes, that doesn't show me you learned a whole lot. Okay. So you really want to take the time to make sure that you're including a lot of information from a lot of different sources. And not only are you just putting what they said, you're explaining it to me. So another part of this information effectively answering your question is that you're using those phrases like this shows or this proves, and then explain it to me in your own words. Okay. Some of you might have stuff that I know about, and some of you may have research topics that are like a foreign language to me. So I want you to think of making this presentation, your final project, as your way of teaching me about your topic. Okay. You get lowest points if I don't know what your question is and if you don't have information that sufficiently explains your topic. Okay. Really here, the more information you include, the better. Okay. And make sure that it's all related to your topic. The next section is presentation. So those of you who are artistic, this might be a really good opportunity for you to get some points with some of your artwork. Some of you are more tech savvy, and that's great. So I want to point out that This should be creative. This should be creative and appropriate for the topic that you have. So I should not be receiving 125 Google slides that look exactly the same because that's not creative. Okay. And that's not specific to your topics. You guys are researching such a wide range of information that all of your presentations should look very, very different. Okay. And then you want to make sure that it's organized, neat, and that it's logical. So there's a reason why there's information all over the place if that's how your presentation looks. Okay. So a couple of tips that I have with this, if you want to get all the points that you can, which most of you probably should, you have some kind of creative presentation or it's appropriate for your topic. Okay, everything is neatly organized and it's colorful. If you are making a Google Slides, you're not just using default. If you're drawing out a poster, you're not just leaving it in pencil. Okay, make it colorful, make it look nice. This is a final project. Okay. Below basic is going to be effort is minimal. If it's something that I could have slapped together in 10 minutes, it's going to get a 0 points. Okay. Make sure it's not sloppy and make sure that it is somehow creative or appropriate for your topic, which I want to address. Okay. Because some of you might be worried, like, oh no, she's not going to take a Google Slides. That's not true. But I want you to think about what is the most creative way that is appropriate to display information from your topic. These are just some suggestions, but really you can turn in whatever you want as long as you're organizing your information, you're teaching about your topic, and you're including your sources. I highly recommend, if you want to get all your points, try to include a few text features. Try to include some images that you created. Do not just take them off the internet, okay? Include titles, include charts and maps. Your project, it might be appropriate to have a timeline if you've looked at how something has changed from when it started to how it is now. A timeline would be a great thing for you to turn in, okay? But really, I can't stress enough how great it would be for you to be creative with this and really think outside the box, okay? Then our last point is sources. So this is including all 6 sources. Okay, so somehow on your project, you have not only listed your sources, but you've included them with the information. So strong work here. 5 points is going to have the source with the information where it was retrieved. So I don't just see a whole bunch of quotes and then wonder, I don't know where they found that information. Okay. So just like if we're doing a constructed response and we say the article says, or in the book Trapped, it says, I know where that's coming from. Okay. So make sure you have the author's name or the article or website with each quote. And then also make sure you're using at least 6 sources in your final project. If you have any questions as you're working on this, please let me know.